what's really irritating is I can sit there and talk to clients about this frustrating. I can sit in the clinic with clients and discuss these types of topics and talk their absolute ear off, but put me in front of a camera and I can barely get out a single sentence without messing it up. But anyway, once again, thank you for watching. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome. If you are a return viewer, welcome back. Now in this video, we're going to be looking at a seriously important and undervalued muscle when it comes to stability in the hips, the knees, and the lower back. Studies indicate that poor functioning or impairment in this muscle can certainly lead to pain in the lower back, issues with the hips, issues with the knees and the ankles and the undersides of the feet. and that muscle is the gluteus medius. Now, glute med primarily functions by absorbing body weight during single leg activities, walking, running, landing, and jumping, for example. It also acts in accelerating the body laterally for moves like sidestepping and cutbacks in sports. Now, take walking, for example. This is an activity that involves both legs, but it is a constant shift of body weight from one leg to the other. With each step, the glute medius needs to fire effectively in order to minimize tilting forces at the lower back, the hips, and the knees. Now, these tilting forces are created by A, the ground pushing up against the standing leg, and B, by gravity pushing down on the swinging leg. If glute medius is not strong enough to absorb these forces, or it reaches a fatigue state too soon, the excess pressure that it can no longer absorb is going to be redistributed to other tissues. Now, poor loading absorption through the glute medius can lead to acute conditions like bursitis, muscle tears, tendinitis, while increased absorption through other tissues, primarily the joint cartilage, can result in earlier onset of degenerative type osteoarthritic changes, leading you potentially down a road of earlier onset of joint pain and even potential surgery. But how do these tissues become so weak in the first place? Well, sometimes it's a matter of the classic, if you don't use it, you lose it. We spend more time sitting and inactive now than we really ever have before. And obviously during sitting, the glutes are both inactive and lengthened. The more time we spend sitting and inactive, the more poorly the muscles are going to perform when we're active. But we also want to think about any time you might injure yourself badly enough to cause some form of limp or altered walking pattern. A sprained ankle, a broken bone, a torn hamstring, for example. In order to avoid pain in these situations, we often adjust how we move and how we bear weight on the legs. We change the muscle recruitment patterns. Any limitation of weight bearing obviously means limitation in activity of that glute medius, which can lead to slight weakening. Logically, we also tend to favor the good leg while we're limping around, which can potentially overstimulate muscles on that side. Now, this new walking style that we've adopted while we're sore begins to become patterned into the brain's programming. See, the brain doesn't actually really recognize individual muscles. It's more a storage reservoir for movement patterns. These patterns are constantly changing and updating and adapting to how we're moving. That's how we get better at any skill, any physical skill that we attempt. With practice, we get better because these programs get more and more accurate. Now, if we are walking around with a slightly different pattern, let's fast forward a couple of weeks, a couple of months, these walking patterns would be really, really well programmed into the brain by this time. Even once your injury does resolve, there could still be remnants and underlying errors in the programming. This has the possibility to habitually understimulate this glute medius muscle as part of the pattern. Then fast forward a month, a year, 5 years, 20 years, 50 years, and that understimulation could finally present with pain and dysfunction somewhere in the body. Now, these exercises can be used to test the strength of your glute medius in the comfort of your own home. With a few different positions and a few different types of movements, you can really isolate whether or not there's a difference between one side and the other. I would typically suggest to pick one lying variation, whether that's the side lying leg raise or one of the plank variations. If you are going to try the plank, I would say to progress up to a duration of a 60-second static hold, and then you should be fine to progress to more dynamic plank variations. The side lying ones are really good for isolating and activating that gluteus medius muscle. They're more about strength and endurance than other types of physiological variables. As for the standing exercises, I would say to do one or as many as you like of these. They're all going to be equally useful in their own way, and the standing exercises are more about balance, muscle timing and muscle coordination than about brute strength and endurance. Now, once you have conquered all of these on this current list, there are several ways you can continue to challenge those muscles. Typically, I would start to look towards more dynamic plyometric type movements, lateral jumps, landing on single legs from a jump, etc. In sporting and athletic populations, I would probably also look into doing some form of agility type drills. Now, it just so happens that the exercises that activate the gluteus medius muscle the most are during the side plank, the single leg squat, and the single leg deadlift. And as it happens, I have already made videos. The first two videos on the channel are about the single leg squat progressions and a single leg a single leg deadlift style movement. Feel free to go over and check those videos out if you want to challenge yourself even more. Now, I did use one of these loop resistance bands for some of these exercises. This particular pack that I bought was 5 different tensions for $30, but I'm sure you can go to your local sporting goods store and pick them up individually for under $10. I highly recommend them. They are super useful and adaptable to lots of different types of exercises. I love to use them with clients, and I would definitely suggest getting one for yourself. Super portable, super cheap, super effective. And finally, this will probably be my last video for the year, given that it is almost Christmas, and with that I would like to say Merry Christmas to all of you. I hope you've had a great year. I am looking forward to building up the channel in 2020, and I hope you find benefit in joining along with me. If you do, give us a thumbs up, leave me some feedback, subscribe to the channel for regular updates, and share these videos with someone who you think needs it.
Just take the test and you'll do fine.
Boss. All right, Brain. You don't like me and I don't like you. But let's just do this and I can get back to killing you with beer. It's a deal.